welcome to episode 9 of Real Combat Media Boxing Radio, the boxing news radio show of www.realcombatmedia.com. I'm John, your host all the way from Manchester, and today I'm with D. How's it going, D, the boxing maniac?
Hey, I'm good, man. How you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. I'm excited for a good show. We had a great fight at the weekend. I'm also here with Jenna J, I believe. Are you there from On the Ropes Radio?
Hey, how you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm doing good to hear from you once again, having you on the show. And we've also got the boxing prophet, Richard Solomon. How's it going?
Doing okay, John. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm okay. You need to make the sound a bit clearer, Richard. I'm not sure if the viewers will be able to hear you. Okay. You could follow Real Combat Media on Twitter at Real Combat Media, and you can also like the Facebook fan page, which you find by typing in realcombatmedia.com into your Facebook search bar. You can also like myself on Twitter at BoxingJonUK, and like my fan page by typing in BoxingJonUK into the search bar. You can also check out the RCM store on www.realcombatmedia.com, and we have a wide range of products for you to potentially purchase. We've got the elevation mask, which replicates high altitude training, so you don't travel to the hills. We've also got hemp protein, the best protein on the land. We have many instructional videos, and if you type in Real Combat Media when prompted, you receive a 10% discount of all RCM store goods. Now, D, talk about the fight, Bradley.
Excuse me, John? I'm sorry.
Yeah, D, I'm saying we had a great fight this weekend, potentially the fight of the year.
Wow. I mean, what can we say, man? This is the kind of fight that reminds us why we love the sport of boxing. I mean, it was a phenomenal performance for both fighters. You know, you had a world-class fighter in Timothy Bradley against a solid fighter in Ruslan, and he showed. This is all right. Let me just put it like this, man. This is why I love this sport. You know, a lot of people trash this fight. Oh, this is a garbage fight. Who's Ruslan? He's a bum. He's this, he's that. Look what he did Saturday night. He was maybe 5 more seconds away from becoming a world champion. You know, Bradley was saved by that bell in the 12th round. You know, but he came in there and he did to Bradley what Devin Alexander, Junior Witter, Lamont Peterson, Nate Campbell, Carlos Abreu, Manny Pacquiao couldn't do to Bradley. So to call this guy a bum or he was a nobody is ridiculous and disrespectful to the sport of boxing. Now, he's not an elite fighter. We understand that. But give this guy credit. It was his time to shine, his biggest time in his career. He was on the big stage, on the biggest platform, HBO, and he showed he belonged. And let's not look what Bradley did, man. I mean, this guy from round 1 was gone. Ain't nobody could tell me any different. After round 1, Bradley didn't even know where he was at. He fought that rest of the fight off instincts and heart. And he did it, man. Oh, Bradley is boring. He did. Look what he did. And people were still trying to discredit his performance after. It's like, what the F you want more from him, to cut off his leg and fight with one leg?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Timothy Bradley. He's not a particularly special fighter in any one area of the sport. He's just completely all-round, and the will and determination to carry on going when he kept taking those punches. Quite a few times, a lot of fighters had been stopped by the punishment that he was taking by Provodnikov. But the thing that frustrates me about Bradley is, although it's great to watch and great to see him do this tremendous style where he just never gives up, he throws punches back in positions where he needs to cover up or he needs to get out of there. And I hate to say it to you because it was a great fight because he fought in that way. But in terms of looking at him from a self-interested point of view, he does get a bit crazy in there, start throwing punches when he doesn't need to. What do you make of the fight, Jenna?
I thought it was an absolute great fight. I mean, it won't get fight of the year candidate. But I mean, it was such a fight that had so much high drama in it, and it had me literally on the edge of my seat in that second round, watching Timothy Bradley nearly get knocked out, barely survive through it, throwing punches when his eyes looked like they had rolled back in the back of his head. I mean, that shows guts and determination, and that's from Provodnikov. I mean, what a tough, determined guy in his own right. he had no quit in him. And for all intents and purposes, going into this fight, I know he was listed as a 4-1 underdog. I mean, he was practically undefeated. This one loss was controversial. I mean, it was a really good fight, and it was a very tough fight for Timothy Bradley. But he came through it, and I think he's earned more fans with this type of performance.
Yeah, I completely agree. Both of them have done themselves justice in this fight. People can say what they want about Bradley, but he performed really well, taking into account he was in with a real tough fighter from the start, who nearly got him out of there right at the beginning of the fight. It was good to see him get through that, and it really ticks a lot of boxes for Bradley. It really shows people that he is an elite fighter, and he's not just been gifted that position by a decision against Pacquiao, because people forget Bradley's fought all these guys. He's beat Devin Alexander, who was prior to that was undefeated. He's beat all these tough guys. D, what do you make of Bradley's performance? Because I noticed that when he actually was sensible and boxed, he was winning the fight pretty convincingly, and it'd be an even scrap when he'd start trading. Do you think he shouldn't have traded as much as he did, or were you just happy that it went the way it did?
Well, you're right. Bradley he gets reckless. He fought a Ruslan kind of fight, But let's give him some credit for that. It could have ruined him. I think what happens is after the Pacquiao fight, he got so much criticism. You understand? Like, he was the one that made the decision. He had nothing to do with that decision. You understand? That was the judges who did. So I don't know why people was down Bradley's throat. And even with the performance he had, the grit he showed, the warrior in him, people still try to discredit him. And if you're a fan, you a sucker. You're a sucker if you can't respect what he did. You don't have to be a fan of Bradley to respect what he did. For all, you can hate him. But if you're a fan of boxing, you have to respect what he did. I mean, regardless, he's not a hard puncher. And you saw why he did the Ruslan's face, man. He performed surgery on him. The guy looked like something out of a horror movie. You understand, after the fight? But, hey, yeah. Two big warriors. They did what they had to do. Bradley won, and that's what matters. You understand? I think going forward, he will realize, look, that's not my style. That's not the kind of fights I fight. I'll go back to the old Timothy Bradley. And I expect him in his next fight, whoever it be against, hopefully Marquez. Seeing this fight, hopefully Marquez say, he's real vulnerable. I want to fight him. So let's see.
Yeah, I'm going to throw my opinion in with the Marquez-Bradley fight. But, yeah, Richard, have you got anything to comment on the Bradley fight? What have you got to say about this?
Yeah, I thought Bradley was in trouble from round one. It was a great fight of the year. I noticed that HBO pointed out that Timothy Bradley gained 40 pounds before the training camp, so he had a lot of weight to lose. His trunks were a little high. He didn't look as chiseled as he normally does. He looked a little bit soft in the middle. But Bradley overcame a lot of adversity. It was a great fight, absolute fight of the year candidate. I don't see any fight, maybe the Rios Alvarado rematch, if it lives up to the first one, surplants Bradley Provodnikov's fight of the year. But, I think Bradley was so disenchanted with all the flack he received from the Pacquiao fight that he didn't really train as hard as he should have, and he clearly underestimated Provodnikov going into the fight. That's why he fought Provodnikov's fight, and he actually lured Provodnikov into a street fight the first couple of rounds, and he survived bravely, and then he tried his best to turn it into a boxing match and kind of dominated the middle rounds before Provodnikov came on at the end. My scoring, my big problem with the fight was the judges' scorecards, and maybe the rules in boxing have got to change. Bradley clearly was knocked down in round one. Referee Pat Russell made a huge mistake in not scoring in a knockdown. Provodnikov should have had a 10-8 round, and if you agreed with Pat Russell and you didn't score round 1 10-8, certainly you had to have scored round 2 10-8, because Bradley was out on his feet for at least a good minute of the round, laying along the ropes, taking a beating from Provodnikov. At the end of the day, in rounds, I scored the fight 7 rounds to 5 for Bradley, but I gave Provodnikov 2 10-8 rounds, one in the 12th round, in which he scored a knockdown over Bradley, and one in the second round because Bradley took so much punishment. So on my scorecards, it was actually 113, a draw. But, you know, Timothy Bradley will go back to the drawing board, and I don't know if Provodnikov will get the rematch, but, you know, people shouldn't give Timothy Bradley a lot of flack. He definitely, at least on my pound-for-pound list, is one of the 10 best fighters in the world as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Jenny, you wanted to add to that?
Well, what the guy on the phone here is saying, one thing he mentioned earlier about the 40 pounds, you know, I saw something similar with another fighter. Chad Dawson had to lose extra weight to fight Andre Ward. And when he got in there with Ward not known for, you know, being a huge puncher, he didn't react well to the shots. And that's what I noticed a lot with Timothy Bradley, particularly in this fight with Provodnikov. He was not taking the shots very well. Yes, there were hard shots. Yes, there were clean shots. But every single time that Provodnikov hit Bradley clean, Bradley got hurt. And I'm not used to seeing that. He's taken big punches before. He's stood up to big punches before. He's a tough guy. This particular fight, something was just a little bit off with him, and I think it might have been something to do with the weight loss that he had to go into training camp for.
Yeah, well, I agree with Richard when he said that he didn't believe that Timothy Bradley was in the shape that we used to see him, and he's usually chiseled out of stone, and that's the thing that gets him through a lot of his fights, the ability to train as much as he does and get in the shape that he does. He's an absolute gym rat. And now you've mentioned that, Jenna, you can put two and two together in that situation, because I did notice that he weren't taking the punches as good as he has, but I just thought it was due to Provodnikov's power. Now, if you look at the shape of Bradley, and then the way he wasn't taking the punches the way he was, maybe there's something to be saw there. What do you think, Dave? Dave?
Yeah. No, I mean, well, you know, he definitely had to cut a lot of weight. Remember, it was a 10-month layoff. You know, he's one that him being rusty, going in there rusty, you know, and then going in there against a determined, you know, hard puncher, not a devastating puncher, but a hard puncher. And he definitely didn't take them punches well, but he still survived. And when he was hurt, he did not clinch. Maybe later in the fight he did, in the later rounds, you know, he started fighting smart. Whenever Ruslan closed the distance, he'll hold them, bring them back to the middle of the ring. But in them first two rounds, he didn't hold. He didn't clinch. You know, and sometimes these fighters got to realize, listen, man, don't put your pride to the side. You know, and it's true, Bradley's not the most skilled fighter. He just does a lot of things good. You know, similar to like Andre Ward, where they just do a lot of things real good, and that's what Bradley does. And he's always top-notch. You know, he's an athlete, spectacular athlete, and his conditioning is beyond.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, D, when you said that, what did you say? You said that Timothy Bradley was swinging instead of grabbing and holding in situations where Provodnikov had him on the ropes and was definitely getting the better of the exchanges. He continued to throw, and that's brilliant to see, and it's great excitement in a fight. But the problem with that is when it keeps happening, you're bound to get the big shots, and he was on a loser because his back was against the ropes anyway, so he couldn't have moved out of the way. But moving on to Bradley and Marquez, now I'm not gonna say anything against Provodnikov. He's clearly a really good fighter and a good fighter to watch, a real tough fighter and a real durable fighter who was landing a lot of right hands on Bradley, and to see him do that against the caliber of fighter Bradley is, we know that this guy's not a nobody, this guy's a somebody. But if you're to imagine a Marquez Bradley fight with a similar sort of theme to it, neither fighters, well, some fighters, they both may go down, but neither fighter's staying down. No fighter's going to quit. Marquez's will is as strong, or if not stronger, than Provodnikov's. Maybe he's not as strong or a bigger puncher, but if Bradley's going to get in a war with Marquez is a lot smarter than Provodnikov, and Marquez is going to catch Bradley every single time with that right hand as Provodnikov did. Do you see any? Do you think that this fight confirms that Marquez had beat Bradley and Marquez is a better fighter, Jenna?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a fight that I think makes a lot of sense. If Timothy Bradley chooses to fight Ruslan Provodnikov, then I don't think he's got great desires on his health, because it's just that certain fighters make for certain fights that are very tough. So if Bradley can somehow get Marquez in the ring, I think it would be a great matchup for him. It would be good for his profile. And as far as Marquez and him, I think it's a fight that actually Timothy Bradley can win. As I said, styles make fights. It's not just, the great counter punchers that's going to win it just because Bradley didn't look good in this particular fight. Each individual fight, a fighter comes out different depending on his preparation and, what went into it. I think Timothy Bradley will look better at his next fight than he did this time around, because I think he'll be, honestly, a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree. I think that Marquez is a lot too smart for Bradley, though. I think that Marquez would pick him apart quite easily. Provodnikov is a good fighter, but I think it was mainly the strength with Provodnikov. Marquez doesn't have the strength, but I think his handwork he'd beat him to the punch all the time. Now, D, what do you think is next for Bradley? Is it the Marquez fight, or is there any other options that you want to look at?
Well, I know everybody's yelling rematch, but this is a business, and Marquez is looking for a fight. You understand? And hopefully he can land that. Bradley can land that fight with Marquez. Because I don't think Marquez wants to get in the ring with a fighter like Rios, if Rios was to win the rematch. You understand? Marquez at this age, to get in there with a young banger like that, spells a lot of trouble. And he's been in there with fighters like that. I'm not saying that Marquez is not open to the challenge. What I'm saying is that at this stage of his career, a fighter like Bradley definitely suits what he's looking for. And especially how he looked in this fight. He looked very vulnerable. But like Jenna said, I don't see Bradley coming out his next fight and looking nowhere near he looked, against Ruslan. So I expect him to come out. And believe it or not, I like Bradley to beat Marquez. I know it sounds crazy, and after what happened Saturday, everybody is say no way possible. But once again, man, every fight is a different fight, and styles make fights, man. I mean, you see it with Marquez and Pacquiao. You understand? Pacquiao has success against everybody else. When it comes to Marquez, he just can't dominate this guy. Styles make fights, and I think Bradley presents a lot of trouble for Marquez. I think it's a great fight. Fight that could go either way. But, I mean, I always said it. At this stage, I like Bradley in that fight.
Well, that's pretty interesting. What I will say is, first we're going to get Richard's call. What do you reckon, Richard? Bradley versus Marquez?
It'd be a very interesting fight. I don't know if there were a slew of welterweight fights taking place with Mayweather against Guerrero and Alvarado against Rio, so I have to see who wins all of those fights. But Timothy Bradley reminds me of a poor man's Evander Holyfield. He doesn't do anything great. Just his will to win and his desire is second to none. Against Marquez, Bradley has shown but he doesn't have the best chin in the world. He was knocked down a couple of times by Kendall Holt. He was knocked down by Provodnikov and out on his feet at least on 3 or 4 different occasions. Juan Manuel Marquez, on the other hand, is kind of past his prime, but he's a great counter puncher. And in the beginning of his career, he was a safety first type of fighter who would use his jab, and he was very, very boring. But as he got older, he wanted to appease the Mexican fans who loved Erik Morales and loved Marco Antonio Barrera because they had a crowd-pleasing style. So Juan Manuel Marquez, the boxer, all of a sudden became Juan Manuel Marquez, a brawler, even though in his last fight against Pacquiao, he waited for his opportunity to counterpunch Pacquiao and then landed the shot heard around the world and knocked out Pacquiao. So I think you'll see Pacquiao against Marquez again. There's just too much money for both fighters to be made not to have that fight take place. But to answer your question, if Marquez was to take on Bradley, I think Marquez would pick apart Bradley and win easily. I mean, I know a lot of people say you're only as good as your last performance, and your partner said that Bradley still has enough time training and come back and turn in an awe-inspiring performance. But what I saw last Saturday night was such a brutal fight that it changes you for the rest of your life. And I think Timothy Bradley will never, ever be the same again. I think he took too much punishment, and I just think, although he'll make it a spirited, competitive fight, I think Juan Manuel Marquez is too seasoned and too good defensively, and I think he beats Timothy Bradley.
I agree with you that Marquez beats Bradley and that Marquez is very seasoned and will get the better of Bradley in a fight, maybe even a close decision. What I don't agree with is that Bradley's necessarily done for and that he's never going to whip out a great performance. I think Bradley's one of them fighters. It's like Bernard Hopkins. You can't rule this guy out. You can never say that Bradley's never going to be the same again, because he could have 3 fights, he could have 4 bad fights, come back and produce the best showing of his career. I believe that Marquez will win, but Bradley's certainly not done. Now, we spoke a lot about Bradley, but what do you reckon about Provodnikov, Jenna? Now he's putting a good performance against a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. What's next for him?
Well, I mean, his stock absolutely goes up. I mean, only in his 3rd fight at welterweight, he fought this way against a guy who's in the top 15 pound-for-pound in the world. I mean, so, definitely people are now familiar with Ruslan Provodnikov. I'm sure HBO is going to replay this fight, over and over time, and, it's going to help build his profile. But, I mean, his next fight, after this type of performance, if he doesn't get Timothy Bradley, I will not be at all surprised seeing him get a title shot. Maybe he could face the winner of, off the top of my head, maybe Danny Garcia, Zab Judah could fight the winner of that fight or something like that. I mean, it'd just be honestly great to see him in another title fight, because after this performance, he deserves it.
Now, D, have you got any words to say on Provodnikov?
Yeah. I mean, the guy, we have another fighter that now we can look forward to seeing, kind of when Madonna stepped on the scene, when Matisse stepped on the scene, kind of fighter. Why not see him against the loser of Rios Alvarado? I mean, I think that'd be a good fight. That'd be the kind of fight people want to see. So, I'm definitely looking forward to see. I see Ruslan on Friday Night Fights, man. There was just a handful of us that was saying this was going to be a tough fight for Bradley. And people, you don't know. Whenever you don't agree with people, all of a sudden you don't know boxing. But if you knew boxing and you've seen this guy fight, you knew he was dangerous. So, I mean, to be honest, I didn't think he'll have Bradley in that much danger. I'll be lying, but he did. He showed the heart that I expected him, and hopefully he'll get another big fight on HBO. I definitely seen him again, fan pleasing, and he earned his stripes.
No, yeah, really, I think he raised his stock by his performance. I don't like to credit people on the losses, but that was a glorious defeat by Provodnikov. And I'm not quite sure that it was a robbery and that Provodnikov won it, which quite a few people saying, surprisingly. I do believe Bradley won it 7-5 or 8-4, but it was a really good fight. And we're going to move on, but first of all, I'd like you to go on the www.realcombatmedia.com and follow the link Feed World Hunger. The Post-Harvest Project provides technologies to farms and fisheries in deprived countries in order to help world hunger. You can make a donation to this charitable cause on the link which I just told you about. Now, if you'd like to appear on today's show, then please feel free to call 347-324-5998. That's 347-324-5998. And then I'll try my best to get you on, but we've got quite a few co-hosts on at the moment, so please be patient. Now, Jesse Vargas was also on the card, and he extended his undefeated record against the undefeated Australian Wale Omotoso, if I got it right. Now, this fight was okay in terms of entertainment, but neither fighter really came out. It was a gritty fight. What do you make of this fight, Dave?
Well, early on, believe it or not, I like Wale's work rate. I think he was winning the fight. Jesse Vargas looked a little uncomfortable. He didn't know if he wanted to box or if he wanted to brawl. And that confusion there, helped, Wale establish a consistent right hand that he was landing on Jesse Vargas, and it looked like it was, it might end early for him. But as the fight wore on, I think Wale, his stamina kind of wore off, and Jesse Vargas realized he was the superior boxer in this fight, and then he started boxing, kept the fight in the middle of the ring, and he outboxed Wale from about 7th, 8th round on, and he hurt him the 6th round. He caught Wale with a vicious uppercut as well, and I think that really, made him think twice about, being aggressive the way he was. And after that, you didn't really see the aggression from Wale that we saw in the early rounds that he was winning. And Vargas just showed his skills, man. He was the more superior boxer. And, he got the victory. I agree with it. I mean, I don't think it was unanimous, but he won nonetheless. But Vargas didn't really show me much neither. You understand? I mean, he's still a work in, progress, and hopefully, he can establish himself, as a big-time fighter down the line.
Well, yeah, I think that people are a bit harsh on Vargas, and previously they've been harsh on him because he's not got the sort of crowd-pleasing, all-action, blowout sort of style, which not every fighter does. Maybe he just wants to get the win after win after win. And I agree with you when you say that Wale looks really good early. I was thinking this was going to be a real tough night for Vargas, and it was to a degree because Wale stopped being as aggressive as he was. But Vargas had to put him in his place in order for that to be the case, and that's Vargas' doing, as opposed to Wale's undoing. Wale wanted to win the fight. Of course, he was trying his hardest, but after blowing off his steam in the first couple of rounds, Vargas got hold of him, and he used his jab, kept him at a distance, and it was really good work by Vargas. I'm impressed, but I'm not as impressed as I was. But maybe this is one of them fights where, like Ponce de Leon for Adrian Broner or Castillo for Floyd Mayweather, where it's just your bogey fight and you just do what you can to get through it. What do you think, Jenna?
I mean, in his performance, he was putting there of a tough guy, a fellow undefeated guy, Omotoso, and he was put to the test. He was dropped. He was down early in the fight, and he had to battle his way back in it, and he did it with superior skills. Overall, I thought it was a good performance by him, but not a great performance. I've seen a lot of Jesse Vargas, and he hasn't really impressed me. He actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Chad Dawson in that sense. He's a guy that he looks like he has all the skills in the world, but he doesn't seem to use them all in the ring to the best of his ability. But it seems like he could always do a little bit more, that he can be just a little bit more impressive. And, so far that's the problem right there. I think that he just really can't go to that next level at this point. He looks like a good fighter. He looks like a guy that can challenge for a world title one day, but I don't know if he's actually going to be a champion, not from what I've seen.
Just to throw that back at you, Jenna, briefly, do you think that if he got in the ring with a big-name opponent that he would step up, or do you feel like he's one of those that will always be a bit shorter than his potential?
I think he might be a bit shorter than his potential. I don't think he's at all ready for a big name at this moment. I mean, he's 23 years old, and for the fighters that he's fought in his career, I mean, he had a very close fight with Josefito Lopez. Some people felt that he should have lost it. This fight with Omotoso, Omotoso was really a basic fighter, and it really put him to the test. I really just don't know how he'll handle the elite level, and I think anything, he'll probably fail to it.
Well, it's one of them. At 23 years old, he's beat fighters that most people that are on his level, in terms of moving forward in the career, are a good few years older than him, so he's got a few more years without having to catch up to anybody. I think he could definitely be a world champion. I think it's more likely that he will hold a title at some point than not. But now, I was looking at Vargas for being a number one in the division, being a top dog in a division, and now I've watched that, I don't think he will be. But as I say, it could be his bogey fight. What have you got to say about this fight, Solomon? Did you catch it?
Yeah, I saw the fight, and I thought based on Omotoso's will to win and the power that he had in both hands, it was a very impressive performance by Vargas. I'm from the old school of boxing. To me, in a perfect world, everyone would fight like Arturo Gatti and Diego Corrales. May they both rest in peace. But let's not forget, boxing is the art of hit and not being hit. Jesse Vargas is a pure boxer. He's got a tremendous jab, great ring generalship. He's great with his foot movement. And in the first couple of rounds, I think Omotoso just overwhelmed Vargas, smothered him, knocked him down early. It was a weird kind of knockdown because he landed a shot to Vargas' arm, and I think Vargas went down not because he was hurt, but because he didn't want to take any more punishment. Then, again, he rallied in the later rounds, and I think Omotoso suffered from what Provodnikov suffered against Bradley, and instead of throwing combinations with bad intentions, he was looking for the one shot. You know, Provodnikov stopped throwing punches and bunches, and Bradley outboxed him. Provodnikov was just looking to land one bomb in the middle rounds. That's what caused him to fight. The same thing with Omotoso. In the first couple of rounds, he was throwing punches and bunches with violent intentions. He had Vargas down, and in the middle rounds, you know, there were two sides to every story. If you're a Vargas fan, you would say Vargas used his educated jab to keep Omotoso off them and then dominated the last half of the fight. If you're an Omotoso fan, you shake your head in disbelief. Why didn't Omotoso throw more combination punches? But my problem here is the same problem I had with the Bradley-Provodnikov scorecard. I believe it was round 6 or 7 when Vargas hurt Omotoso, had him out on his feet for a good minute and a half. I advocate for every judge out there and every fan listening to the radio show, if you have a guy out on your feet for a minute and a half, you should be given a 10-8 round. Vargas dominated Omotoso in that 6th or 7th round so badly, he deserved a 10-8 round. It was almost like round 2 with Provodnikov-Bradley. Provodnikov dominated Bradley so badly, Bradley was out on his feet. You got to give Provodnikov the 10-8 round. So at the end of the day, Omotoso and Vargas each had a 10-8 round, but I scored it 6 rounds to 4 for Vargas. So ultimately, I had him winning the fight by 2 points. And for a kid his age to overcome an early knockdown, to overcome adversity like he did, it's only going to enhance his reputation and make him better as a fighter in the long run. So I was kind of impressed with his performance.
Well, yeah, that's very fair, and this is something that you just brought up an interesting point that I'd like to ask you, Boxing Maniac. Now, Jesse Vargas just beat an undefeated fighter who's had more fights than him. He had a better knockout record than him. He was expected to win because he was the known fighter. He was a HBO fighter, and would you say it's unfair to a degree? Omotoso he's been undefeated. He's fought in Australia, but because he's not on the American radar and he's not a known fighter, people seem to think, oh, well, Vargas will beat him up. And then when Omotoso gives him a tough contest, people are criticising Vargas. Do you see anything to that?
No, I mean, not at all. Because once again, like I said, if you're a boxing fan, a casual or a hardcore, then you understand that, you know, Wale's a tough fighter. You know, he's an African fighter fighting out of Australia, man. This guy's a tough fighter. He's undefeated for a reason. Now, he doesn't have the best resume. He doesn't have huge names on his resume, but he's undefeated, and he showed that, you know, fighting against another undefeated, you know, tough fighter that he could bang. And I just think it's more why he didn't do, you know, towards the end of the fight that really caused him to fight, you know. But I just think Vargas was just a better fighter overall. Now, I'm not saying that Vargas looked horrible, you know, why not? But this is what boxing's become. Whenever you're a big name, they want you to look spectacular, a la Adrian Broner, you know, up-and-coming fighter a la Keith Thurman. These fighters are coming up, people saying their name. When they get in the ring, they do what they're supposed to do. Vargas, on the other hand, he did what was most important. He won the fight, and he won it clearly. I don't think that, you know, there was no controversial there, and nobody is yelling controversy anyway. But we kind of expected him to look a little better. But it's okay. He got the fight. You know, you're going to win. You can't win them all pretty. That's just you know, how boxing is. You're not going to win them all pretty. He won the fight, tough fight against a tough fighter who was determined. And now, you know, he's on to the next one. You know, who knows? His next fight, he might fight a better fighter and knock him out in the first round. That's boxing for you.
Yeah, you're right, and we'll be seeing much more from Jesse Vargas, so he can either prove us wrong or right, depending on what our reservations are about him. Now, I think we're going to, is there one thing you'd like to say, Joanne?
one thing I quickly want to comment on. I did say that he may not win a title bout. That's actually not entirely true, because if you match any fighter right enough, they can win a title fight. And there is one champion out there I think Jesse Vargas is capable of beating, that being Ishii Smith. But besides that, I don't see him having a long run as a champion from what I've seen his ability.
Okay, that's fair. And is there anything you'd like to add about that, Solomon?
Yeah, I think Vargas.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Hello? Are we there, guys?
No, we're here. We're here.
All right, I thought there was a problem then. Right, okay, we're going to move on. Right, okay, we're going to talk about Ward and Mayweather this. Go on, tell the story, Dave.
Oh, man. Mayweather got on the interview with Fight Hype, and what was funny is this interview, Ward was not mentioned, nothing at all. Guess he heard, before the interview, he heard that Ward was picking Guerrero to beat Mayweather. He was rooting for Guerrero. Now, anybody that knows, Guerrero and Andre Ward are from the Bay Area. These guys grew up together from the amateurs, real good friends. You understand? And Ward, and what's funny is Ward gives nothing but credit to Mayweather. He said it on record. I think Mayweather is a phenomenal fighter. Nothing but respect for Floyd. Floyd hears Ward is picking Guerrero to beat him. He just comes out of nowhere. Like, no one mentioned, Ward, picking Guerrero to beat him. He just comes out of nowhere and starts ripping Ward about his religion, about he's not known and he's a gold medalist and he's not, known the way he should be, and just ripping him, just going in on him. And I think it was very unfair, for Floyd to act like the way he did. And it's just the thing with Floyd, people have to understand is that, let's just make it clear, the guy's a phenomenal fighter. We know that's a given. The problem with Floyd is his damn ego. You understand? He's so used to being around yes men and everybody, yes Floyd, and he'll say a dry joke and everybody laughs. That's why he's used to. So I guess he sees another fighter, African-American, going against him, picking a Mexican against him. So he feels, wait a minute, he can't do that. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rip him. I'm going to rip Ward, and I'm going to say this about him. You understand? Instead of, him saying, you know what, Andre Ward is a phenomenal fighter. He's not known the way he is. Let me try to help him and get out there. And that's not the case, Floyd, we've seen this. Look, we've seen Floyd get on the video and have racial rants against Manny Pacquiao. We've seen Floyd about a month ago, disrespect K9's wife. Now he goes on record and disrespects Ward. Now people say, he wasn't lying about anything really, but he was being disrespectful. Why? Because Ward just picked against him. Floyd is constantly, drawing that line. He's passing that line, always being disrespectful. Now, it's different between being, trash talking and being flashy. It's okay. Burn dollar bills in the club. It's okay to say, I'm going to whip your ass. I'm going to kick his ass. That's okay. That's good for the sport of boxing. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you get disrespectful for no reason, come on, man. You're supposed to be a professional. You're supposed to be the leader of the pack of boxing. And look how you look, man. Very childish.
Hey, I'm going to go jump in here. And one thing I have to say is, Floyd Mayweather Jr., he sometimes he acts out. That's what he does. When you want to tell the 24/7, he's having an argument with his father. He didn't like something his father said, and he acted out. He acted all defensive. He did what he did. And I think that's what he's doing here. I think he's defensive. He's defensive to the fact that Andre Ward, who's a fellow gold medalist out there, a fellow undefeated, a guy who's being talked about being the top 3 pound for pound, that could be the next pound for pound best fighter in the world, saying something in a negative light about Floyd. Well, Floyd, boom, he's going to go right out there in the attack and insult Andre Ward, saying, well, Andre Ward, he doesn't excite people. He doesn't do those type of things in the ring that interest boxing fans. Well, in Andre Ward's last fight, He knocked out Chad Dawson. He knocked him down multiple times. He put an ass whooping on the light heavyweight champion of the world. You can't argue with the performance that Andre Ward put out in his last fight. You can't say that he's not a fighter that can draw interest, because at one point, Floyd Mayweather Jr. was that same way. People say, well, he can't draw interest. You know, who cares what he does? You know, he's not an exciting fighter to watch. He bored people to tears with the Baltimore fight. You know, he had not that much going for him in terms of his fighting ability in the ring, you know, in terms of, you know, pressing people what he did in the ring, kind of like Ward does. So I don't think he should be the one to talk. He's at a point now because he stayed undefeated. He stayed undefeated all these years, and then he became a pay-per-view star. But he was not a pay-per-view star until he fought Oscar De La Hoya. And after that, he became that star on his own and carried it forth. At this point, Andre Ward, if he stays undefeated and he keeps doing what he's doing, he could be in the same position that Floyd is in. He may not be a trash talker or promote himself in that way, but he can actually promote himself in a positive way because he's a good thinker in the way that he speaks. You know, with Floyd, all this, it's the world of Floyd Mayweather Jr. It's drama. You know, you had Andre Ward saying, you know what, I'll drop to 160 pounds and I will face you. Well, you know, I actually had a post-fight show, I think back when Mayweather fought Ortiz or something like that. I forget which fight it was. A caller suggested that Floyd Mayweather versus Andre Ward would be the next huge fight, and I thought it was ludicrous. But you know, if these two keep going at each other the way they're going in the press, and if Andre Ward could actually drop down to 160 pounds and Floyd wants to man up to that weight class, we might have something here because Floyd, he started something.
I mean, I would love the fight, you know, but realistically, it's not going to happen. I mean, I would love it, and that's my biggest problem with Floyd. You know, on Twitter, I'm known as I'm called a Mayweather hater. I do not hate Floyd, man. I just hate that he doesn't challenge himself. This fight is, for example, if Austin Trout beat Canelo, Floyd Mayweather's not going to fight Trout. And why not? Why not fight Trout at 154? Why his fans got to say, oh, Trout is too big for him. Come on, that doesn't make sense. How that doesn't make sense? He fought Cotto at 154. Oh, but Cotto's a small junior middleweight. Thank you. That's the reason why Floyd went to 154. You understand? They want to glorify him for going to 154 to fight Cotto, but he fought Cotto only because, of course, two reasons. It was a money fight, and he was a small junior middleweight. But then again, his fans are okay with him fighting Canelo. Now, I don't understand that. Canelo's a big 154-pounder. If he was to fight Floyd at 154, he's going to come in at least 16 pounds heavier than Floyd, similar to what Trout would come in if he was to fight Floyd at 154. All I want to see him is challenge himself. I just want him to say, you know what, I'll go to 154 and fight the best. And all that, money. Listen, man, Floyd at this point is the golden child. Doesn't matter who he fights, he's going to make money. Now, of course, Floyd against Canelo, it'll be a bigger fight than Floyd, but if Trout beats Canelo convincingly, why not Floyd and Trout? I mean, I don't understand that. You know? Why? Because Floyd doesn't Trout is not a big money guy. That's BS.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, obviously, if Austin Trout does beat Canelo Alvarez, but, you know, he automatically throws his name out there in the mix. He's an undefeated champion who's an American, O versus O. But I have to credit you on one thing there, D. You know, Floyd did step up once. He did take a challenge, and he went up to a guy that was 154 pounds, being Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya was the champion at the time that Floyd Mayweather went up in weight. No catch weight. Floyd weighed 150, Oscar weighed 154, and, you know, while it wasn't a crowd-pleasing fight, Floyd got the job done, and he won the fight. I don't think Floyd is targeting weak challenges. If he was, he wouldn't be taking on Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero is not a household name. People do not know Robert Guerrero. It's not a fight that's going to sell pay-per-views on its own. So if Canelo Alvarez loses to Austin Trout is honestly as big of a star right now as Robert Guerrero is in people's minds. I mean, actually, Austin Trout, I think, is actually a bigger star than Robert Guerrero because he had a high-profile fight with Cotto, and he won it. So I do believe if Trout ends up winning that fight, that he actually would be a possibility for Floyd, and I don't think Floyd would duck it if the money was right for it.
Right, he definitely can. I mean, and for the Oscar fight, I mean, it was obvious. He needed that. He needed to bridge that from making, decent pay-per-view numbers. To being a decent fighter to a superstar as far as name go. And you're not going to turn down the Oscar fight. He was the golden boy. If Oscar wants to fight you, you fight him. Floyd needed that fight, and he was pulling Oscar out anyway. He did go to 54, and he fought him there. He had no choice. You understand? But he didn't go back to 154 until he fought Cotto. Now, he only fought Cotto because it was a money fight. You understand? A couple of years ago, he didn't want to fight Cotto. Oh, I got nothing to prove. When Larry Merchant asked him right after the Ricky Hatton fight, well, you got to fight it like Cotto. Oh, I got nothing to prove. I'm going to retire. So now he wants to fight Cotto at 154 and then use that, I'm going to fight him at 154. But then again, he's a small, Cotto's a small 154 fighter. I mean, Sergio said he can make 154 to fight Floyd Mayweather. I don't know about now, because, it's been about 2 years later. But, would he be willing to fight Sergio at 154? Sergio can make that. I don't think it's realistic now. But if he could have, I don't know. And that's my thing. Now, he's fighting Guerrero. I got much respect for Guerrero. But at the end of the day, Floyd is a fighter. The one thing I do give him credit for, he never fights outside of his style. Perfect example. We saw Bradley get into a brawl with a brawler. Bradley's not a brawler. Floyd is going to be Floyd. He doesn't care about the crowd. He doesn't care. He's not going to go in there and have, a balls-to-wall fight. It's not going to happen. He's going to outbox Guerrero. He's going to win 10 to 11 rounds, and that's it. Guerrero will have his moments here and there. He'll try to make it tough as possible, but it's not going to happen, man. It's not. Guerrero's not beating Floyd Mayweather unless he catches him with a lucky punch. That's the only way he beats Mayweather at this point.
Well, you never know, because any fighter can get in the ring there and just not look like themselves. Could be a little older, and that could happen to any fighter. So, I do think that Floyd's going to win the fight, but I don't think he's actually going to win 10 rounds to 2 or 11 rounds to 1. I think it's going to be something more around the rounds, honestly, 8 rounds to 4, 9 rounds to 3. I think Robert Guerrero offers a bit of a stylistic issue at times because he does have good range, he does have a good jab, and, as slick as Floyd is, if Floyd fights the way that he's been fighting in his last few fights, more flat-footed, it actually could be a more interesting fight than people are really giving it credit for.
If he decides to go there, we're going to see. Guerrero's going to have to use that. If he just comes in there and try to make it a dog fight, he's going to get picked apart. Floyd's going to rip that boy up, man, with counters. He's too fast. He's going to have to mix it up, similar to what Cotto did. What fighters don't realize is Floyd Mayweather cannot stop a jab for his life, man. Every fighter that stood consistent with the jab gave Floyd issues. But what happened? De La Hoya stopped throwing the jab. Cotto stopped throwing the jab. Jab him to death, man. I've seen it, and I've seen other fighters do it a little bit and stop. They try to think overwhelming Floyd is the key. It's not. That's not how you're going to beat him. You got to mix it up. You got to box. Can you outbox Floyd for 12 rounds? Hell no. Can you outbox him at times in the fight? Absolutely. You have to mix it up when it comes to Floyd. Now, Guerrero, like I said, I like Guerrero. I picked him to beat A-Dean, and I definitely picked him to beat Berto. But if you look at A-Dean's last fight, he got outboxed by a brawler in Soto Carras. So now that win doesn't look too good, and we already know Berto's story. You understand? His biggest win is Luis Collazo, and many felt, he lost that fight. So Berto was that kind of fighter that, has all that potential, but, never lived up to it so far. So, we'll see, man. I know we got a little bit away from, the Ward and the Mayweather thing, but Jay Prince, which is Ward's manager now, who was, used to be the manager of Floyd Mayweather, he felt a certain way that Floyd came at him. And like you mentioned earlier, Jenna, he was saying, listen, Floyd was in the same predicament. This guy couldn't sell. He said he couldn't attract flies to a dumpster. You understand? He said in his own hometown, the Grand Rapids, Michigan, he couldn't sell out a 6,000 seat venue. And then Floyd went on record saying that he fought 12 years ago in Cali and sold it out. And that was a lie. He did not sell that out. So, sometimes he could be very contradicting to himself. Sometimes he talks like he's been a ticket from day one. And that wasn't the case. He's been a highly touted prospect from day one. I mean, when he came out, he was an Olympian, so he had high expectations. But he wasn't no damn draw. Oscar made him who he was. That fight made him who he was, and he was the B-side to that. He was the B-side for the Gotti fight as well. But the Gotti fight did about 13,000. Well, if anybody knows, Arturo Gotti in Atlantic City is like Poto in Madison Square Garden. No matter who he fights, it's going to be a good crowd. But, at the end of the day, Floyd is in a good position. Wish him nothing the best. And that's it. Ward is going to be all right. Ward's only problem is lack of opponents. You understand? That's all it is. He's in a division where he already dominated everybody. You had the light heavyweight champion come down to fight him. He whooped his ass. He said he'll come down 160 for Mayweather, but, will he come down 160 for Sergio Martinez, for Gennady Golovkin, for Peter Quillen? Those are fights people would love to see.
Okay, we're gonna say goodbye to our wonderful Jenna J, who came on to grace us with her knowledge once again. Take care, Jenna.
Hey, thanks, John, for having me on the show. Enjoy the rest of the show, guys.
Jenna, let me ask you. You don't post your show, man. You don't promote it. I never see it. Like when you do your shows.
I post it everywhere in every single Facebook group that there is out there, and it's at doghouseboxing.com.
No, on Twitter.
On Twitter. No, I do. I get all my articles out there. I get all my interview articles on there. I've been actually on break for last 2 weeks. I had a vacation, but I'm getting right back to it actually in about 6 minutes. I have an interview coming up. I'm pre-recording. So wish you guys all the best of luck for the rest of your show, and I'll catch you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, D, if you want to listen to Jenna's show, then I can pass it on to you if you'd like to. I thought that you already had her on Facebook. Do you not?
No, I don't have her on Facebook.
I'll pass it on to you. Richard, have you got anything to say about this whole Ward makeover?
I don't think Rich is there, man. He would have been butted in.
Richard, they're gone it right. Just out of argument's sake, D, who do you think could win? In fact, whoa, let's take a caller.
Can you
Hello,
hear me
you're
now?
live on the radio?
Yeah, hi, this is Rich, the Boxing Prophet. How are you?
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened there. Have you got anything to say about Ward Mayweather?
Yeah, I just think the Mayweather-Guerrero fight to me is a little bit of a joke. Let's not forget that Guerrero started off his career at 126 pounds. Now he's moving all the way up to 154. I'm on record as saying that Robert Guerrero even lost his last 2 fights. I think that Aiden put a clinic on Guerrero and beat him 8 rounds to 4, and Guerrero got a gift decision. I thought the Berto fight was a war, but at the end of the day, I had Berto beating Guerrero by 2 points. So he is a guy that, at least on my scorecard, lost his last 2 fights. Now Floyd is going to face him. In my eyes, Andre Ward's the new best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Janet Jackson came out with a song years ago, back in 1986, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" That applies to boxing. Let's take a look at Andre Ward's resume. He single-handedly cleaned out the super middleweight division with dominating victories over Arthur Abraham, Carl Frock, and Miguel Kessler. He challenged the light heavyweight champion of the world, Bad Chair Dawson, knocked him into oblivion. What has Floyd Mayweather done lately? He beat vicious Victor Ortiz. I mean, people, you can't live on what you've done in the past. You have to live in the here and the now, in the present. And to me, Andre Ward has surpassed Floyd as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. If Floyd wants to go out, with a bang and prove to the world that he's, a Hall of Fame type of fighter. He's got to challenge Sergio Martinez. He's got to challenge Triple G. Or if rumors are correct and Adrian Broner is moving up from 130 to 147, maybe Mayweather challenges Broner. I actually was one of the fans who wanted to see a Mayweather-Ward fight. I don't think it's ever going to take place because Mayweather wants to protect the O on his record. But if Andre Ward wants to move down and face Floyd at 160, to me it puts Floyd in a position where if he loses a close competitive fight, it actually doesn't hurt his legacy all that much. Because Andre Ward is the bigger fighter and the younger fighter, and he's fresher and he's faster, but you'll never see Floyd face Andre Ward because he's more scared about losing the O on his record than fighting great level of competition. And it's sad for the sport, if you want my opinion.
No, listen, man. I mean, thank you so much, man. I mean, that's what I've been saying for such a long time. It's no knock to Floyd Mayweather. It's not hate. It's just facts, man. Facts are facts. And people don't realize that they so drunk off the Floyd Kool-Aid is sickening. Anything he say, it's all right. Anybody he beats, it's oh, look who he beat. Listen, Ward is the best fighter. I've said it. A lot of people might disagree, but to me, Ward is the best fighter in boxing. You make a good point. If Floyd was to go to 160, which he'll never do, but if he was, and fight Ward and lose a competitive fight, it definitely does nothing to his legacy. Even at 154, listen, if you constantly challenge yourself, fighting the best, and you lose, it does not tarnish your legacy one bit. Because you know why? Real fans, whether they like you or not, is going to say, wow, but look, man, he went up there and he fought a tough fighter at this weight and fought a competitive fight. There's nothing wrong with that. But Floyd, like you said, he's so in love with that. Oh, it's like he sleeps with it. He showers with it. He takes it with him everywhere. He does not want to lose it. So therefore, I'm only going to fight guys at 154. There's going to be small. Now, I'll tell you this. If Canelo fucks Trout up, and whoops his ass, Floyd Mayweather will go nowhere near Canelo. Nowhere near him. Trust me. He'll fight Alexander next or Amir Khan next after Guerrero. If Canelo, and even if Canelo wins a close fight, I don't see Floyd fighting him anytime soon. And even though Floyd needs, he needs that draw, because Canelo doesn't need Floyd right now. Floyd needs Canelo. You understand? Because he wants some big paydays, and Canelo could bring that. And look, Canelo Trout already sold 20,000. 20,000 already they sold.
Yeah, to be honest with you, if you took a look at the card, it was supposed to be on the same card, Mayweather, Guerrero, and Trout against Canelo, but Canelo wanted it in writing, and if Mayweather got by Guerrero, he was going to face Canelo next. Mayweather refused to put it in writing, so now Canelo Trout is off the pay-per-view on Showtime. It just goes to show you what Floyd's logic of thinking is. I think the powers that be won't allow Trout to get the decision over Canelo unless he wins 11-1 or 10-2. There's just too much money invested into Canelo with Golden Boy. So I think that has highway robbery written all over it. And, Floyd should face Canelo. I remember earlier in Canelo's career, the kid from The Contender, I believe is Alfonso Gomez, before he got knocked out by Canelo, gave Canelo fits with his jab and his lateral movement. Canelo, for all of the height, for all of his power and his punches, is very robotic. He's not that fast at all. He's very stationary. He has no foot movement whatsoever. I think Floyd would toy with Canelo and win an easy decision. But, we'll see what happens after the Trout fight. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, going back to people beating Floyd with the jab, and you talked about De La Hoya and Miguel Cotto. What about Zab Judah? For the first 3 rounds, Zab Judah embarrassed Floyd Mayweather. beating him with the jab, and for some reason, you got to give Floyd credit also. There were two sides to every story. You could say that De La Hoya, Cotto, and Zab Judah all stopped throwing the jab, but you can also say Mayweather always comes with a plan B and a plan C to overcome the other guy using his jab. Mayweather overcomes that with his defense, his hand speed, and his ring generalship. But, it remains to be seen what's next for Floyd, but I think he destroys Guerrero. I think he'll make the fight exciting because he'll lay along the ropes like he did against Cotto and let Guerrero tee off on him. Guerrero has the heart of a champion, but he has no power in his punches. And Mayweather will pick off most of his shots, and for every one punch that Guerrero lands, Mayweather will land 5 or 6 in return. But, everyone's all happy about Mayweather-Guerrero. They're excited for the fight. To be honest with you, I'm more excited for Canelo Trout than I am for Mayweather against Guerrero.
Everybody is. I mean, anybody who's really, a hardcore fan, are excited more for Canelo Trout, and rightfully so. We know Guerrero comes in a straight line. He has no head movement. He has decent boxing skills, but it's just, listen, man. You saw it in the Berto fight. He looked sloppy, even though he won the fight. He did not look impressive in either of his wins against AD nor Berto. You understand? And we know these guys are nowhere near Floyd's class. And you're right, Floyd might get on the ropes, knowing he's not a big puncher. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Most of 90% of Floyd fans are gonna glorify this win like he just beat Gennady Golovkin, and that's just what it is when you come to most of these Floyd fans. They just that's the reality of it. But anyway, I just hope he fights somebody that we can say, wow, this is a fight where this person has a good chance.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it takes me back. A lot of old school boxing enthusiasts like Teddy Atlas, they always rip Oscar De La Hoya as being overrated, losing all of the super fights he took place in. But to tell you the honest truth, I think De La Hoya was more underappreciated. Towards the end of his career, De La Hoya made it his business to face Manny Pacquiao when he was past his prime, to face Bernard Hopkins and Floyd Mayweather when his skills have eroded. And to me, that speaks volumes about the courage of Oscar De La Hoya. And now you have Floyd Mayweather, who, let's face it, at the end of the day, might go down as one of the 50 or the 40 best pound-for-pound fighters of all time. And he's going to spend the last, couple of fights of his career fighting Victor Ortiz, fighting Robert Guerrero. I'm from the old school. If you're going to go out, fight the best in the world. Go out fighting the best, like De La Hoya did, or even a guy like Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, who fought De La Hoya, who fought Chavez, who fought Trinidad, all when his skills were diminishing. That's what Floyd needs to do. He needs to face guys that have a decent shot of testing him and beating him, like you said, Triple G, Sergio Martinez. And if you're not going to face Andre Ward, face an up-and-coming superstar like an Adrian Broner, who, if he does move up in weight, I think destroys, Paulie Malignaggi, wins that belt, and has a lot of momentum. And Adrian Broner is a talker. He's a lot like Floyd. A Broner-Floyd Mayweather press conference, to me, is worth the price of admission alone.
It absolutely is. And Broner made that clear already. He calls Floyd Big Bruh. Not Big Brother, Big Bruh. And they had asked him, would you fight Floyd? And I mean, he answered in a hard, in a quick second, oh, no, I'll never fight Floyd. But why not, man? At the end of the day, ain't it about money? Ain't this a business, nothing personal? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're my uncle, if you're my father, man. Listen, if we can make some serious money fighting each other, why not? Because after the fight, man, we'll be laughing to the bank, and with our bloody eyes and bloody nose and say, hey, look, we got paid. It's nothing personal. And I'm tired of fighters doing that. Now, I understand with the Klitschko brothers, you know, they made a pact to their mother. They'll never fight each other. I mean, I would love to see it. But, you know, people understand. But when it comes to, like, friends, or he's just a good friend of mine, I won't fight him. Come on, man, that's bullshit. To me, it's about money, right? Every fighter talks about, you know, it doesn't make business sense. It doesn't make business sense. Why fight him? It doesn't make business sense. But yet, the guy to your left, who you call your best friend, you and him make the best business sense, but yet you're not going to fight him? So come on, man. Like, that really, you know, pisses me off when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, not to sound redundant, but it's all about, you know, keeping his undefeated record intact. There was an episode of 24/7 years ago where I thought Floyd was kidding around, but he seemed pretty serious to me, where he looked into the camera and he said something like, Muhammad Ali has 5 losses, Sugar Ray Robinson has 14 losses, I have 0 losses, I'm better than them. He really believes as long as he retires undefeated, he'll be the best pound-to-pound fighter that ever lived, and to me it's nonsense. When I look at great fighters, or when I do my own personal pound-for-pound list, it's not only about talent, it's also about who you have on your resume. And sometimes, you know, when Bernard Hopkins was defending his middleweight title with an iron fist, he couldn't get that resume because there weren't any good middleweights at the time. Sort of like when Larry Holmes was the heavyweight champ, people kept on criticizing him for fighting, you know, the bum of the month club or whatever. But Larry Holmes, it wasn't Larry Holmes' fault that there weren't any great heavyweights to challenge him. Now Floyd Mayweather's in an era where there are so many good fighters, anywhere from 147 to 160, and we just named them. Broner, you know, Sergio Martinez, the winner of Trout Alvarez. But I get this feeling that Floyd is just going to feast on subpar guys. Like if he beats Guerrero, it wouldn't surprise me if he faces a guy like Andre Berto. You know, and Mayweather sells himself. He doesn't need an opponent to sell himself at all, because Floyd has his legions of fans that'll stick by him no matter what. And it's just, you know, it's sad to see, because to me he's a great talent that comes along every once, maybe every 25 years. But he needs, after the Guerrero fight, he really needs to step up the level of his opposition. Even when he fought Miguel Cotto, people were like, he's facing Cotto. Cotto's skills were so diminished, and Mayweather made that fight tougher than it had to be by laying along the ropes just to make it an aesthetically crowd-pleasing fight. And he'll do the same against Guerrero. Even if Mayweather wins 10 out of the 12 rounds or 11 out of the 12 rounds, it won't be boring. You're not going to see Floyd on his bicycle boxing and running. You're going to see Floyd counter-punching off the ropes like he did against Cotto. So to Floyd's credit, he's no longer that boring fighter like he was against Carlos Baldomir back in the day when he ran for 12 rounds. But you have to take a risk. And that's what guys who are in my top 5 pound for pound are doing. Nonito Donaire, Sergio Martinez, Andre Ward, they're all taking calculated risks, especially Donaire, who in April is going to fight Rigondeaux in a very challenging fight. And I get this feeling that if Floyd doesn't up the ante soon, forget about being number 2. He may fall to number 5 on my pound for pound list if he doesn't take any risks soon.
Exactly. I think I'm telling you, he's going to fight. He's either going to fight Amir Khan next or the winner of Alexander Brook. Maybe not Brook if he wins, but the two fighters are definitely going to be Amir Khan or Devin Alexander. And don't be surprised if it's Amir Khan, just because that was a fight they spoke about years ago. In fact, if Amir Khan would have beat Danny Garcia that night, he would have fought. He'll be fighting Floyd Mayweather, you know, right now. In fact, it wouldn't even be Miguel Cotto. It would have been Amir Khan who would have fought Mayweather that day. But, you know, Khan getting knocked out by Danny, you know, ruined that. But now Khan, you know, is back in the picture. He got to win. I mean, he's fighting Diaz at a catch weight at 143. And if he wins impressively, trust me, it wouldn't shock me Amir Khan to say, oh, I want Floyd Mayweather. And, of course, what Mayweather's going to say? Well, he called me out. Of course I'm going to fight him. That's bullshit. How many other fighters call Mayweather out and he wouldn't fight him? You understand? So, I mean, it's the same thing, you know, with Floyd. Once again, it's no knock to him. Floyd, you know, he's a phenomenal boxer. I mean, flawless defense. You know, the guy, his skills are exceptional. But it just sucks when you see somebody of that skill that's not willing to take, you know, riskier fights. And people say, oh, he's taking risks. What risk, man? He fought Cotto at 154 because he was a small. In fact, he hurt Cotto in the 12. So that just showed you, listen, man, Cotto is not that big, a 154-pounder. He won't do that to Canelo Alvarez. He will not hurt him like that. He'll hit him, but he will not gonna stun him like that. He won't do that to Austin Trout because these guys are bigger, 154-pounders. You understand? But you know, I just hope he fights the best. That's all I ask. Whether he wins or lose, I could care less. Just fight the best, Floyd. Make the sport better than what it is right now. And you mentioned Nonito Donaire against Rigon Diao. I think that's a phenomenal fight, a fight that I'll be at live, in fact. So I can't wait for that fight to, you know, happen. It just sucks that we can't get, you know, Nonito against, you know, Mares, even though I think Nonito wins that fight, you know, pretty handily. But, you know, it's just a fight that I would love to see.
Yeah, because of this ridiculous feud between Golden Boy and Top Rank, we don't see fights like Mares against Donaire, dream fights that we all want to see. But, you know, Amir Khan was winning the fight against Danny Garcia. I refuse to believe a lot of people who are Khan fans think Garcia landed a lucky shot. I don't believe it. If you studied the fight, Garcia was timing Amir Khan with his left hook, and he finally landed that left hook that knocked Khan senseless. And he landed that same left hook. He landed that same left hook against Eric Morales, which was personally my knockout of the year last year, and I'll be also at the Rigondeaux Donaire fight, by the way. So hopefully I'll look you up and we'll hang out during the fight. But you know, Khan is like Guerrero, young blood. He's an up and coming quote unquote superstar. You know, and as far as Devin Alexander goes, I think Devin Alexander was the recipient of a couple of gift decisions. I thought Kotovnik schooled Alexander. Alexander got the benefit of the doubt. And Matisse, I thought, also destroyed Alexander, but somehow Alexander got a gift decision. To me, forget about Khan and forget about Alexander. And even if you're not going to face the big-name fighters like we alluded to before, what about a guy like Matisse, who knowledgeable boxing fans like you and I know that Matisse is basically undefeated. You know, he beat Devin Alexander, and Devin Alexander got the decision. And I forget who he also lost to, but he has two losses. And both,
Zab Judah,
that's right. He knocked down Zab Judah, and he beat Zab Judah, and he lost that fight. So to hardcore fans like you and I, Matisse beat Judah, he beat Alexander, he should be undefeated, and yet I guarantee you Mayweather wants no part of it.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point there. You know, and I never thought of it, to be quite honest. You know, I think that definitely be a great fight, and he deserves it, rightfully so, man. Look, like you said, he beat Alexander. He won that fight, man. That's definitely no question. To me, the Zab fight was a little close. I think could have gone either way. I think Matisse just edged it, but you know, they gave Judah the victory. But the bottom line is nobody has beaten him definitively. You know, no one has said, yo, I beat Matisse, could say it proudly. You understand? I don't even think Alexander or Zab Judah really mentions that because they know the deal. And definitely with Alexander, the same thing I said, Kotelnik, you know, Bradley, Kotelnik, and Medici. Those are three fights he had in a row. He arguably lost all three. We know he lost the Bradley fight. That's an official loss. But the Kotelnik and the Medici fight, man, you know, he got hometown decisions. You know, because he fought both of them in St. Louis. And I feel bad for Kotelnik because after that fight, where the hell he went? Like, I don't think he has had another fight since then. I mean, now Medici is getting, the respect he deserves. I would like to see him in the ring, but against, a fighter like, Danny Garcia, if Garcia could get through Judah, And, in fact, Medici, the fight is in the process against Lamont Peterson. I think that's going to be a hell of a fight if that fight goes through. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, and Lamont Peterson, to his credit, he stunk out the joint against Timothy Bradley. He lost 11 out of the 12 rounds on my scorecard, but he fought great on ESPN2 a couple of months ago. Looked great, overcame some rocky moments early, but, successfully defended his title, and he's calling out the best. He wants Matisse. If that fight ever materializes, I think Matisse will win, but you got to give credit where credit is due for Peterson to call out Matisse. I think it's a great fight, and we'll see what happens. But getting back to Floyd, I think the last time Floyd actually took someone on that challenged him was Shane Mosley, and Shane Mosley was gaining a lot of momentum because a lot of people thought he was shot, and then he went into the ring and destroyed Antonio Margarito. So there were people that liked Mosley over Mayweather. Mosley knocked Mayweather senseless in round 2, but then abandoned his game plan, and Mayweather won an easy decision. But, for whatever reason, people abandon their game plan when they fight Mayweather. Mayweather, like I said before, does have a plan B and plan C going into a fight, knows how to overcome adversity, but like you said, the key to beating Mayweather is an educated jab. And the comparison that I used was the way Winky Wright and the way Vernon Forrest both beat Sugar Shane Mosley. Sugar Shane Mosley, when he was coming up, was a very competent boxer, used an educated jab, hand speed, reflexes, the total package. I thought Sugar Shane Mosley would be the next superstar of boxing, but he proved to be a little bit overrated because he believed his own press clippings. He stopped throwing the jab. I called it the Roy Jones syndrome, and that's what it's now. Why go to the gym, enhance my craft, practice throwing the jab, and work on my boxing technique when I can get away with murder, have killer reflexes, killer feet, and killer hand speed and defense? And that's what Shane Mosley did, and Vernon Forrest and Winky Wright both respectively destroyed Shane Mosley using an educated jab and boxing technique. And I think a guy like Adrian Broner and guys like Adrian Broner and Andre Ward, the jabs, use boxing technique, don't rely on their hand speed and their defense all that much. And that's the kind of skills you need to beat and to test a guy like Mayweather, even Austin Trout. The way he put on a boxing clinic against Cotto, yeah, he had his rocky moments where Cotto nailed him with the left hook. But for the most part, Trout used an educated jab and great ring generalship to outpoint Cotto. And that's what Mayweather needs to do. We got enough of these guys that are stationary, that stand right in front of Mayweather. I want to see Mayweather fight an educated boxer.
And we all do. And that's been my argument for a long time, man. These people on Twitter, man, you got to see, man, I call them Floyd zombies because it's like they look at this guy like he's Jesus Christ, and it's like, look, guys, if you're not going to constantly challenge yourself as a fighter, then, people's going to call it like they see it, man. And whether you're a fan of his or not, you got to be real. Like, look, my favorite fighters are Miguel Cotto, Sergio, and Andre Ward. I respect every fighter, but these are my favorites. Now, I call it like it is for all my fighters. I was at the Cotto Trout fight. I'm going to be quite honest. Live, it looked like Cotto won the fight. It looked close. I was seeing on Twitter, people was like, oh, he's losing. I'm like, damn, but from here, I guess it was the alcohol in my system that altered my vision. But it just felt like and then, I watched it on television, and Trout won the fight. I mean, it was a close, people say, oh, he destroyed Cotto. He did not destroy him. He won the fight, yes. You understand? And I know, that's just Cotto. He fought. Trout was able to also use his natural bigger body and move Cotto around and whatnot. But he beat him with skills, and that's that. And I know we just mentioned a fighter, like you said, Adrian Broner, and yes, rumor has it he's going up to 147 to fight Paulie Malignaggi for Malignaggi's belt. Now, what do you feel about that?
I think it's a great move for Broner. I'm not one of Malignaggi's biggest fans. I thought in his last fight he got a gift against Cano. I had Cano winning the fight by 2 points. He knocked down Malignaggi. Malignaggi, to me, is sort of like Zab Judah. I don't know why they're not fighting each other in Brooklyn. I think that would sell out the house in a second. It astounds me that the two boys from Brooklyn haven't fought each other. But Malignaggi and Zab Judah, to me, are what I like to call career underachievers. Both guys have natural God-given talent where you'd think that they would have great careers, but for whatever reason, mentally, they're not sharp during some aspects of the fight. Zab Judah looked great, like I alluded to earlier in the program. Zab Judah, in his biggest fights, looked great the first 3 rounds against Mayweather, and for whatever reason wound up losing. Dominated Hall of Famer Costa Tszyu in the first round, was on his way to a career-defining victory, and then Costa Tszyu knocked him dead in the second round and scored the TKO victory. The same with Malignaggi. Yes, he had some decent victories over, Juan Diaz, but whenever he elevates to the A- or B+ level of opponent, like a Miguel Cotto, he always, or an Amir Khan, he always finds a way to either A, lose, or B, get destroyed. So I don't think mentally, he'll be into the fight. He may have some moments of success with his jab, but I think Broner will taunt Malignaggi. I think he hits a lot harder than Malignaggi. Some people might question the jump up in weight of 2 classes, that maybe it'll affect him, but Malignaggi has no power. So he can't keep Adrian Broner off of him. It's not like he's going to hurt Broner with his power shots. He doesn't have any. If he uses his jab, maybe he can negate. If Broner gets too cocky and starts to believe his own press clippings and doesn't use his jab, maybe Malignaggi can negate some of Broner's hand speed by doubling and tripling the jab. But I don't see that fight being competitive. If Broner doesn't stop him in 8 or 9 rounds, he definitely will win an easy 9-3 or an 8-4 decision, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm just eager to see. I mean, Broner's a big fighter, man. I think 147 is really not a big issue for him to make. That's why after the DeMarco fight, I was one of the many few that wanted him to jump up to 140. And, come on, why you going to make him jump up to 140? But now he's jumping up to 147, and them same people who didn't want him to jump to 140 so early is okay with him jumping to 147. Because, they hypocrites. A lot of these fans are hypocrites. Now, of course, you can't blame Broner. I'm blaming the fans. Make up your mind. Now, I think, obviously, he has mastermind behind him in Al Heyman. They picked Malignaggi because you said it for the right reason. One, Malignaggi is already a downhill, he's already downhill. And 2, he has no power. So he's not going to hurt Broner. You understand? I can see him having success early against Broner, with the jab, like you said, because Malignaggi does throw a good jab when he uses it. But that's going to be his best weapon. He can't move around. And I think when Broner closes the distance and start landing them body shots and them facial shots, it might start getting ugly for Malignaggi. And it could be an early night for him if he doesn't come in prepared, But, hey, if it's in New York, I'll be there. And I was at the Malignaggi, that was the co-feature of Danny Garcia Morales. I was at that fight as well. And, even live, me and majority of the crowd felt Cano won the fight. So after I watched it on television, I thought it was about a draw. I believe I scored it. But you know, he just didn't look good at all. And you know, Broner, we know he's more skillful than Cano. It's just cherry picking, man. They just picking the right fighter for him at 147. That's all it is.
I agree with you, but in all fairness to Broner, what we've seen over the last couple of his fights is a real metamorphosis. You know, when he stepped up big time and fought Ponce de Leon, a lot of people thought that, you know, he lost the fight. All he did was run. It was a very, very close fight. I was arguing to this day. I argue with people. Some people had Broner losing 8 rounds to 2. I had it 6 rounds to 4 for Broner. But since then, he turns in crowd-pleasing performances. He boxes, he brawls, he fights in the trenches, he goes for the knockout victory, and I give him credit. I think where people are getting a little bit crazy is I pick up Ring Magazine, I go on everyone's, you know, Facebook sites and Twitter accounts because I'm hardcore. That's why I call myself the Boxing Prophet. But for people to have Adrian Broner in their top 10 pound for pound is way, way premature. I mean, the guy hasn't really faced any really, you know, like future Hall of Fame guys. And, you know, if you want to say he's one of the more talented guys in the sport today, that's fine. But you have to build up a real great resume to be included in someone's top 10 pound for pound list. And I think Ring Magazine, to have him in the top pound for pound list is way premature and kind of a bad move.
Yeah, I mean that it's a joke, man. There's no disrespect to Broner. He definitely looks like a future you know, top 10 pound for pound fighter. You know, he could even climb the ranks, you know, as a top 5. Who knows? I mean, the sky could be the limit for him. Now, as of right now, hell effing no. No way possible. You understand? You know, and it's sad. It's just to show you that these people like my friend the Dominican Dream says, these guys are hype gobblers. You know, it's hyping and they just grab it and they're like, yeah. You know, like HBO at times, man, it's like they trying to brainwash you. You understand? I mean, look at Gennady Golovkin, for example. No disrespect to Gennady. I mean, the guy, he definitely looks like, you know, a very tough mother ucker, like, you know, reminds me kind of a Drago from Rocky, the Russian. But he hasn't beaten anybody yet. You know, he's done what he had to do against the opponents that's put in front of him. But let's not get out of line neither. You understand? He has a lot of flaws. He's just he hasn't been in the ring with somebody that could bring in like him, or with somebody that could box, that could use their feet, and is going to give him angles. You know, so let's see that first before we can say, well, this guy's really the ish. Same thing with Broner. Both fighters look like they're going to have promising careers. But at the moment, so far, so good. But we have to see more before we could crown these guys, you know, top pound for pound fighters.
I completely agree with you. You know, if you're going on talent alone, both these guys could be the future of the sport. But to me, guys that don't get enough love on anyone's pound for pound list would be guys like Abner Mares and guys like Carl Froch, whose resumes are off the hook. And I know a lot of people say that Andre Ward embarrassed Carl Froch, but if you look at Carl Froch's resume and the people who he's fought consecutively, you know, Jean Pascal, Andre Ward, Arthur Abraham, I mean, he fought the best in the super middleweight division, and he even holds a win over Ruslan Provodnikov in dominating fashion, yet nobody has Carl Froch in their, or most people, I should say, don't have Froch in their top 10, and Abner Mares goes on Showtime, wins the bantamweight tournament. You know, he defeats Agabeko and many other talented fighters and cleans out the division. And yet Broner is on everyone's pound for pound list, and Carl Froch and Abner Mares are ignored. It's just because people aren't drinking their Kool-Aid. If you get my drift.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, John, you ready?
Yeah, I'm back. I do apologise for my absence, guys. I've had to sort something out. But now I believe that we've got Tyson Fury on the show. We've got Tyson Fury, and we've got his uncle Peter Fury, who's also acted as his trainer for the past couple of years now. How's it going, Tyson?
Now, fighting on April the 20th, how long have you trained up to now for the fight? Like, how many weeks have you trained on? You've got a bigger fight with Steve Cunningham, but David Price, unfortunately, fell at the first hurdle in the second round against Tony Thompson. What did you make of that? Was that a big surprise to you?
Well, I think it wasn't a press start, you know, because it was a fantastic big part, but for the four judges, I could do it. It's not work like that at all. It's not cheap, doesn't it? So, you know, it's nothing cost us a lot of financial money. Big fight, that's what I'm sure you can break down the stage for myself. You know, got back out of the Steve Cunningham somewhere.
Yeah, well, no, it's of course a shame when you get such a talented fighter who doesn't seem to have the chance to take it once. It's unfortunate. Is this fight still likely to happen at some point?
You know, because the very know that getting so long to get, and why not see TV, it's a big fight, you know, it's still been a big fight. Charlie's got to go back, and nothing to go over.
Now, fights that have fell through fire have been with big European names such as the undefeated Boxing. You've got Ruslan Provodnikov, the former world heavyweight champion. As a fighter, is it really frustrating when fights like this fall through?
It is, you know, because there's not been fights against top dogs and so-called good guys. You don't want to expect to the point, you've got no balance otherwise. You don't want to fight. You've got that slight chance of nothing. A lot of money to take the fight. And you think a lot of times, you've got no chance, and he knows that. So I don't blame him really about the military and voice of young undefeated boxer. He should have took the fight for you know, and fight against it. And we'll have to know what we're going to do. But, you know, it's frustrating to train to for a fight and all of a sudden he's pulled out.
Well, is it just a case of keep winning who wants to fight you and then win the fight when eventually these guys will have to fight you? Is that what you might say?
To be honest with you, I'm not really interested in any of the fights. It's not an heavyweight to bear. I've got Steve Cunningham to think about. Because I'm not such Steve Cunningham, I may as well get myself in the top sector. That's another job. So, I'm not going to take my eye off the ball, you know. It's a hard fight, you know. People say this guy, and I'm saying, oh, you've done It's not the fact of if I eat from the head, it's the fact of how long it's going to take me to fix up. I have to do about these two small factors. It's not only that you can find the shadow of imagination. It's a very hard time.
Send him a message and I'm
I can't find someone who doesn't find someone small and abuse.
It's good to hear that. That's good. So here's a challenge for you. Now this guy's a former world champion. Coming off his last fight, he lost a controversial decision to Thomas Adamek, who by many accounts is the best heavyweight without a title, the best heavyweight who's not called Klitschko. Did you see the performance there? Have you watched a lot of Steve Cunningham's fights?
Yeah, I watched the fight, yeah. I'm just thinking of boxing company, not good boxing. I think it was all down the decision for Adamek. But he did need a chance to learn to fill in the fight, doesn't he?
Of course. Now, is this the year?
Okay, guys, I really apologise there. We had problems connecting with Tyson Fury. D, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, what we're going to do is I'm going to finish up the Tyson Fury interview and then we're going to release it separately as an article, so you'll be able to see that on realcombatmedia.com tomorrow or the day after. Now, we've got one more fight to talk about, D. We've got Arthur Abraham rematching Robert Stieglitz. And fair play to Arthur Abraham because he's going to Stieglitz's backyard to defend his title there. What do you make of that?
The first fight was pretty good. Abraham won the fight. And he's getting, Stieglitz is getting another opportunity. And now it's at his backyard. It's an interesting fight. It's a fight that I think Stieglitz could win coming around. I don't think Arthur Abraham is at this point in his career, far superior, better than Stieglitz. He's a better fighter, but it's a fight that could go either way this time around.
I completely agree, and it's the contrasting styles which I enjoy. Like, you got Stieglitz who volume, and he tries to win. He don't throw bombs. He don't go for the knockout. He's not particularly a big puncher either. He just goes for the volume and goes to land the more punches and impress the judges just based on sheer work rate. Now, with Arthur Abraham, you've got a guy who's an offensive fighter. He's going to come forward, he's going to throw a couple of shots to counter, and he's going to get out. He's going to throw a couple of shots and counter, and he'll stand and he'll jab, and then bam, and then out, bam, then out. And that's what Arthur Abraham's really good at. And he was a massive puncher at middleweight, and he was knocking people out for fun, but at super middleweight, where his punches haven't seemed to be as strong, although he's still feared, he's changed his style a bit more to as a way of winning points and going the distance, which you saw him do a lot more. Now, I completely agree with you, D, that Stieglitz has got a chance here. Now, a lot of people said that he won the first fight. Do you agree with that?
No, I think Abraham edged it out, And to be honest, I know it's going to sound crazy. I didn't really see it that close of a fight. I think Abraham won. I don't remember how I had it because it's been a while, but I had Abraham winning pretty convincingly.
Yeah, well, Abraham's personally one of my favourite fighters. I've been a fan of Abraham since long into his middleweight career, and I was so happy when he became a two-weight world champion after he had a terrible Super 6 and people thought he was out of there. A win against Stieglitz puts him right back in there. What do you think? What do you think we could get? Like, what is this winner and eliminator for a big fight with either the winner of Fratz Kessler or the loser of Fratz Kessler, for example?
Yeah, right now, also the question is, you have, Kelly Pavlik has retired. That's a fight that people wanted to see years ago. It had a lot of demand, Kelly Pavlik, Abraham, but we can't count him in right now because he's retired. But, at 168, I wouldn't mind seeing, who knows, man, I wouldn't mind seeing Bout Abraham. I think that's a fight that could put, if Bout wins his next fight, against Jean Pascal and Abraham wins, then I think it's a fight for both fighters that can be good. But then again, you have Andre Ward, you know, and like I told you on last week's show, I feel if Carl Froch beats Kessler, he should go up and fight Bernard Hopkins, you know, at like heavyweight. But, you know, it'll definitely give Abraham a big fight if he was to beat Stieglitz again. Not only that, if he was to beat him convincingly, you know, I mean, a dominant performance or perhaps even better, a knockout. It's nothing more definitive than a knockout win. And if he can do that, then shit, people are going to say, wait a minute, this Abraham is far from done. This guy still got some gas in the tank. And it'll put him in a big fight. But right now, I really don't, off the bat, I really don't see who. I mean, he's not going to get another Andre Ward fight. You know, I don't think he will want to fight the loser of Kessler Froch. Maybe so. I mean, that's what's available. But, you know, Froch and Ward dominated Abraham. I mean, these guys really dominated him. You know, or what's up with who knows, man? Why not? If Andre Durrell, man, you know, they got unfinished business, you know, Abraham and Durrell, because we saw what happened in the Super 6. So if that could happen, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that the winner of Froch and Kessler should be the next opponent for Bernard Hopkins. I think that's a given, and if that fight doesn't happen, then, you know, the best aren't fighting the best nowadays. That is, of course, we've got Andre Ward, but Andre Ward's on a different planet. I don't even know where we're going to have to look for different. We're going to literally have to look in different galaxies to find a worthwhile opponent for that guy. He's beat everybody, and he's beat everybody so convincingly that it isn't worthwhile for them to take a rematch. Ward's begging these guys for rematches, I'm guessing. I don't know, but there's nobody else out there for him to fight in a division. And if you look at the world title holders in this division, it's arguably the strongest division, because in every weight class, you get say one champion that's really strong, or two, or maybe even three, but this has got four really, really strong world champions. You got Arthur Abraham, who you've got to argue is probably the weakest, and he's a two-weight world champion. And he's a brilliant fighter. He was one of the best middleweights in the world, if not the best in his time. You get Kessler. I don't need to talk about Kessler. His only losses are to Calzaghe and Ward. You get Froch, who's only been beaten by Kessler and Ward. And you've got Andre Ward, who's not been beaten. He's not been beaten in his life. He's not been beaten since he was around 12 years old, apparently. And now, what do you make of this one? Because Abraham's a big draw in Germany. What do you make of him fighting the winner of this 168 tournament on the undercard of the Golovkin card? Would that be something interesting? Say if Edwin Rodriguez pulls through that and wins it, he's undefeated still. He'll have like 25-0 approximately. What do you make of that?
Well, do you know, John, you come up with a great point. You know, I forgot about La Bomba. You know, Edwin Rodriguez, you know, he's a fighter. If he could get out that tournament, shit, why not? I mean, Arthur Abraham would be a great measuring stick for him. You know, the question is, would Lou DiBella want to bring Edwin Rodriguez, you know, one of his more up-and-coming prospects, more contender right now, you know, if he was to win that tournament, where he have him come to Germany and fight the likes of Abraham. And, I mean, that's where the money will be because, you know, like you said, you know, Arthur Abraham is, correct me if I'm wrong, he's Armenian, right, but fights out of Germany.
He's an adopted German for the sake of it.
No, it doesn't matter. He's at the end of the day, he's a draw there. You know what I mean? You know, same thing with Boutte and Pascal. I mean, Canada's the adopted place, but they big draws there. So, you know, that's the fight itself. I love that fight, John. Edwin Rodriguez, Abraham. Wow. You know, that'll show young lion against, you know, old gator. You know, it'll definitely show where both fighters stand. Is Edwin Rodriguez, you know, ready for the big leagues, you know, or can Abraham still bang with the young boys? So I'll take that in a heartbeat.
Well, I think this is I think the super middleweight division doesn't get talked about as much as it should do, because you've got the 4 tough champions and you've got a number of young undefeated fighters, or not quite undefeated, but fighters who are real good. You've got George Groves, who's undefeated. You've got James DeGale with 1 loss. You've got Adonis Stevenson. You've got Tommy Gunners Fusen from South Africa. Now, there's tons of guys to fight. Edwin Rodriguez wins this tournament, he's definitely up there. You've got Don George, who's coming off impressive wins. Now, the reason why I mentioned the tournament and Edwin Rodriguez, who I'm guessing is a favourite for that tournament, is that he's already been talking smack about Arthur Abraham, saying that he's willing to travel to Germany to knock him out in front of his fans. Now, if he wins this tournament, he's right up there and he's deserving, but like, what about Arthur Abraham versus the likes of George Groves or Tommy Gunners Fusen? Like, there's a lot of people. It's a really deep division.
I mean, you know, these are guys that are up and coming. You know, I believe Tommy Gunn was even considered for Carl Froch. The fight didn't go through, or HBO didn't accept the fight. I forgot exactly what it was. And then, you know, George Grove, you know, they had him at the Showbox. I know he fought a Showbox here in the States, you know, trying to give him that exposure. And, you know, he's a tough guy, man. You know, George Groves is a tough guy. He beat Glenn Johnson in his last fight. And, you know, that'd be another good measuring stick for Arthur Abraham. You know, once again, it'll be Young Lion against Old Gator, and it'll be interesting. How about George Grove against Edwin Rodriguez down the road? I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but I think that'll be another good one down the road. Like you said, it's a very deep division. I think maybe the deepest in boxing if you look at it from top to bottom, but just doesn't get the recognition it should. I don't know why. But it's a very deep division with a lot of talent, with a lot of good fights possibility, with fighters that can even probably move up to 175 and challenge fighters up there. Just a very good division for boxing.
But yeah, you've also got like Jermaine Taylor and guys like that there. These guys are still hanging around and they're real good fighters. I think that George Groves and Edwin Rodriguez is a good fight because, you know, 2 young, undefeated fighters. And they always like to see the best of the British fight the best of the American. That's like, we want to see the likes of Tyson Fury go over and fight the best in America. Obviously, you got the best in Europe, but that's the heavyweight division. Now, like when George Groves fights Edwin Rodriguez, for example, the winner of that, we know, is ready in his prime for a world title shot. But you'll have the best people in America and the best people in Britain, both of them waiting for title shots, but we don't know who's most likely, so we always need these guys to fight each other. And that's why I think tournament boxing is the best thing. I think it's a shame that the super middleweight tournament that was made doesn't have the likes of George Groves and Adonis Stevenson. I think 1 or 2 of the fighters are a bit of a letdown and a bit of a knock together, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, man, but you know, not to just jump off topic a little, John, but you know, I guess we forgot to mention about HBO breaking their news today, man. Huge news. Talking about they'll do no more business with Golden Boy.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you have to say about that?
Well, yeah, I'm not too surprised. The whole thing's been moving in that direction. What I will say is, take a look a few decades back when the World Championship of Boxing started to split and fragment into 2, and then 3, and then 4. And with the IBO, even 5, and there's tons more that I've not even mentioned, the WBU, the GBU, WBS. Now, that was a problem, because at one point that was singular, and that's been split into 5. Not only that, but now it's becoming like the WWE and then the WCW, completely different networks, different organizations. Now you've got HBO and Top Rank, and then you've got Showtime and Golden Boy, and these are 2 different, you know, it's going to be like boxing and MMA soon, you know, like two different organizations running in-house fights. they've got the partner television broadcaster, and I think it's terrible for the sport. I don't like it at all. What about you, D? It just further entrenches the divide that's become.
This is the thing. When you really look at it, it's not like top-ranked fighters were fighting Golden Boy fighters anyway. So it's not like, to me, it's not that huge of a deal. The only thing is the likes of Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, Canelo, Trout. I mean, these fighters, with Golden Boy. I don't know if Trout is exactly with Golden Boy. He might be, or Keith Thurman. I don't think he's signed either. But especially Broner. Now these guys get shifted the showtime. Regardless, HBO still has a bigger budget. I think, first of all, this is a plan. This has been a plan. Ken Hirschman didn't wake up today and say, you know what? I'm not going to do no business with Golden Boy no more. This is something that's been spoke about for a while, something that was in the plan, and they say, you know what? I'm done. This is what we're going to do. Now, of course, these guys are smart, educated men. There's a reason why they did it. I don't know if it was to say, Al Heyman, because Al Heyman was about to corner the market. He has Floyd at Showtime, and then he was about to have Broner. Was it a way to say, you know what, Al Heyman, screw you. Take all your fighters to Showtime. You understand? Now, how Showtime is going to pay all these fighters now, these Golden Boy fighters. So, what helps is now you're going to see more of the Lou DiBellas, the Gary Shaws, the Dan Goulsons, the Main Events, the Star Boxing, who knows, more European, Eddie Hearns, Sutherland. So, that's a good thing. It's not like, people say, Showtime is Golden Boy and HBO's Top Rank. That's what it looks like. But both companies, both Showtime and Top Rank, Showtime and HBO are going to need more than just Top Rank and Golden Boy. They're going to need these other, the Sergio Martinez, you understand, the Andre Wards, the Boo Boo Andrades, you understand, you got all these, there's a bunch of talent, coming up, from, not from these big companies, and it's good. And it's good. I know it sucks, and people's going to argue about it, but let's make it clear. It's not like Golden Boy was fighting top-ranked fighters anyway. You understand? So it's like, hey, and let's be honest. If I'm not mistaken, Showtime kind of did that at Top Rank last year, just without announcing it. So it's like, when you look deep into it, it's like, okay. It is what it is. But, I understand what you're saying. It's going to just be like, well, we're Golden Boy fighters and we're top-ranked fighters, and we either going to fight in-house fights or against these little, small promotional companies, the DiBellas, like I said, the Shaws, the Goulsons, Main Event, and the Star Boxing, and, even European promoters.
Yeah, to what extent do you think this is HBO biting the nose off to spite the face? Because they lost Mayweather, and they lost a few other guys, and a lot, even Canelo's fighting on Showtime a lot. But to what extent do you think that they're ruining things for themselves? Because there's still money to be made with those fighters, but with Golden Boy fighters that are willing to fight on HBO. Like, I don't see why they've completely closed off a good section of the market. I don't understand why they've done that. Do you think this is a good decision for them?
I can't say it's a good decision because we got to look at it long term before we can say that. At the moment, I'm in limbo. I really can't tell. Because you still got Rios, you still got Donaire, you still got Mikey Garcia. You got Marquez still, you got Bradley. You got to remember, there's a lot of fighters still. Andre Ward. There's still a lot of fighters here. that can make HBO Network. And like I said, Ken Hirschman's decision to do this had a lot of thinking behind it. You understand? These guys have a plan. They just didn't do it blindly. You know, that's just for a reason. They got to say, look, if we're going to cut off ties with Golden Boy fighters, what do we have on our plate? And obviously they went through it all and said, okay, you know what? We're going to move forward with this plan. Now, it has to be somewhat personal at the same time. You understand? Because if I don't like a company, I don't care. But if I know they fighters could bring me, you know, more subscribers and in the business that I want, then shit, that's why we're here for, right? Nothing personal, all business. But, you know, it's something where, you know, Hirschman didn't like or got into it with somebody, because supposedly Golden Boy, you know, Richard Schaefer and Oscar De La Hoya is saying that they have nothing, they don't know anything about, you know, it's a shock to them, you know, according to both of them. So,
we've got to go, D, so I'm going to give you a chance to say your goodbyes now.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, you know, another great show, man. Real Combat Media Boxing, man. Of course, I want to thank the Boxing Prophet. Also want to thank Jen on the ropes for coming on and you know, chopping the boxing up with us. And of course, man, always the great host, my man BoxingJonUK. And of course, you know me, the BoxingManiac. You know, follow me at Boogie Down Sean. And you know, until next Monday, man. Everyone have a good one.
Yeah, final word on this split. I will thank Dee for his appearance and thank the Boxing Prophet and Jenna J for another great show. Now, one thing on this split is, if you to look back 10 years ago, Oscar De La Hoya was the fighter that appeared most on HBO. He had the record for the most appearances on HBO before, I believe, he was took over by Roy Jones. Now, think of the transformation that's been made 3 or 4 years later, making his own promotional company. And then now HBO doesn't allow any of his fighters to fight on there. What a big change! I believe that somebody's pissed somebody off along the line, and I don't know, but I believe that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than we know about. But yeah, thank you very much.
It'll come to the light eventually, so it has to be something.
Yeah, of course. Now, thank you very much for another great show. You can like me at BoxingJonUK, and you can also like Real Combat Media at Real Combat Media on Twitter. Also check us both out on Facebook. Yep, thank you very much. Sorry, I got the 60-second warning then. Yep, please go on the Real Combat Media store. You've got the Elevation Mask, you've got hemp protein, you've got instructional videos, you've got Alpha Brain, which is a new pill on the market, which opens up your intellectual channels and allows you to think clearer. You've got tons of things. Type in Real Combat Media when prompted, and you'll get a 10% discount on RCM store goods. We had a good show today. I do apologise for the Tyson Fury interview, but we're going to finish that off, and we're going to either get that on an article which will be released in the next couple of days, or we're going to either put it on next week's show. We've got great stuff coming up next week's show. We're in contact with some good fighters who've got upcoming bouts, and we can't wait to get them on to speak to you. We're sorry that we couldn't get it on the show. We're sorry about Tyson Fury once more, and we thank you again for listening. Take care. Bye-bye for now.